Vitória. A very important victory for Fluminense here at Maracanã over São Paulo by 2-1. An important win for Fluminense's future in the Libertadores. Before I start my analysis here, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell because that's really important for our work and gives us a lot of support. Let's go, guys. Let's talk about the match because it was an electrifying game at Maracanã. The game started off very competitive between both teams, with São Paulo pressing really high against Fluminense, making it hard for them to play out from the back. Fluminense had a lot of trouble controlling the midfield, but soon, at 15 minutes in a run by Lucio down the left side of the attack, he managed to slip a pass to Canóbio, who won a challenge. There, using his speed against the São Paulo defender, he broke into the box from the left side and sent in a low cross. And John Kennedy, JK, the team's top scorer this season with 12 goals, slid in at the far post to put Fluminense ahead. That gave Fluminense a huge sense of relief because, like I said, it was a very tight, hard-fought game, and for good reason, right? The third and fourth place teams in the Brazilian Championship faced off directly for a top 4 spot. Well, Fluminense scored to make it 1-0, took the lead, calmed things down, and kept controlling the game after the goal. The goal was important to calm the team, and São Paulo wasn't too affected by it. Fluminense managed to build better plays. The team had a very good attitude during the first half, actually during most of the game, to be honest. And then at 45 minutes into the first half, Canóbio, who had been playing a great match, had a great game here at Maracanã, scored the second goal, increased the lead for Fluminense after a blunder by São Paulo's defense, with Doria gifting it to them. São Paulo regained possession, played out from the back with the goalkeeper, who passed to Doria. Doria kept looking at the goalkeeper, pretending he was going to pass it back, try to pass there in the midfield in São Paulo's defensive half. He hit the pass a little too hard that landed at Nonato's feet. Nonato quickly found Lucio Acosta, who was pressing São Paulo's goalkeeper inside the box, very close to the penalty spot. Lucio controlled the ball, turned, and as he turned, São Paulo's goalkeeper was closing him down. He found Canóbio inside the box, who blasted the ball into São Paulo's net, 2-0 for Fluminense in the first half of the match. And then the first half ended, Fluminense 2-0, a comfortable lead. Fluminense came back for the second half much more relaxed. Then São Paulo had to open up in the match, right? In this second half, in the final stage. São Paulo pushed forward a little more in the game, just as the match ends here at Maracanã. Yeah, that's why this is such an important win, the victory. Tuesday is war for the match against Bolívar, where Fluminense needs to build up their goal difference. If they win by 3 goals, Fluminense will only need a simple win in the last round to qualify in a situation that has become extremely complicated in the Libertadores. But Tuesday is war, just like the fans were singing. That's why this win is so important, because Fluminense managed to get a 2-0 lead. As I was saying, in the second half, São Paulo opened up more to try to close the gap and go for the result. And Fluminense couldn't take advantage of it. The good attacks they managed to build, even on counter-attacks, Fluminense managed to move the ball very quickly there, with Lucio, with Savarino, Guga showing up really well, and John Kennedy too, getting involved and contributing really well in the game. John Kennedy, in fact, who came off 15 minutes into the second half, was heavily applauded here by the fans. Just like Canóbio, who also left later in the second half, was highly applauded. Canóbio really needed this game. Canóbio had been coming off weak, poor performances, below his average, but today at Fluminense he played a good game, a great match, was rewarded with a goal, and the fans applauded, they recognized it. Well, in the second half, Fluminense couldn't take advantage of those good attacks, as I said. They had chances, but were let down by the final pass, their finishing, and poor decision-making. And then São Paulo started to believe, started to feel they could close the gap, and that's what happened. São Paulo went after Fluminense with incredible pressure. Fabio made 2 miracle saves, one after another. The first miracle was a close-range shot aimed at him, but he reacted quickly and deflected it for a corner. The ball went out for a corner, was crossed into Fluminense's box, a header followed, and Fabio made a tough save, pushing it out for another corner. And then, on that second corner, in this third attacking moment for São Paulo, there was nothing he could do. The ball came in, it was a tight, curling cross. Fabio decided not to come out because there were too many people ahead of him. And Doria, the same one who made that mistake in Fluminense's second goal, redeemed himself, pulled one back for São Paulo, and scored São Paulo's consolation goal here at Maracanã. And that was the final score. Fluminense 2, São Paulo 1. Fluminense now has 30 points in this Brazilian championship, tying in points with Flamengo, who play on Sunday tomorrow against Atlético Paranaense at Arena da Baixada. It's also a tough match for Flamengo. Fluminense did their job at home in this direct clash between the Rio tricolor and the São Paulo tricolor. But the important thing is that this win came Fluminense's way. It's a win both for this direct clash in the Brazilian Championship, in this fight for the top 4 of the competition, and also a win to boost morale. For Tuesday, for the game against Bolívar, Fluminense needs to win convincingly. They need to score goals. So the fans leave here excited, different from the last match here at Maracanã, when they left feeling doubtful, left booing. It's a cautious optimism about the victory, just enough to lift Fluminense's head a little out of the mud, for Fluminense to breathe, for Fluminense to get a little out of this crisis. With that heavy cloud hanging over Laranjeiras, it seems like the cloud is starting to move away from the club, the cloud is starting to pass. Yeah, and it's also worth highlighting here, guys. Before I give my final thoughts on the match, I'm going to ask you again to subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and turn on the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all our content here at Lance. That really strengthens our work. We do what we love, what we enjoy, and we really need you to join us in this, all right? Well, the final highlights here in our analysis of Fluminense 2, São Paulo 1 are for some players. The whole Fluminense team in general played well today. They didn't need to suffer the way they did here at Maracanã. Remember, near the end of the second half, almost in stoppage time, Fluminense broke through on the right side. They finally capitalized on those strong second half attacks, right? They couldn't take advantage of the others, but in this last attack, they managed to turn it into a goal, a cross from the right by Serna. Soteldo closed in at the far post with little angle, shot across goal, and Castillo deflected it in. But the referee, after a VAR review, saw that Castillo was offside, so Fluminense stayed 2-1 up against São Paulo and secured those 3 points. Well, let's go to my final highlights of the match. As I said, Fluminense's teamwork, Fluminense's attitude was very good. Fluminense needs to have this attitude, needs to have this determination. On Tuesday against Bolívar, but there were some individual highlights. In my opinion, Guga did very well. He's establishing himself more and more as the starter in that position. Samuel Xavier has really lost his spot. Guga is giving a lot of options in attack, finding good passes, making good plays, playing with personality and helping a lot, really supporting Fluminense's attack and being very solid in defense when needed. John Kennedy, once again, scoring a goal, is the team's top scorer this season. As I said at the beginning of the video, that's 12 goals so far, so he's a very important player. Now with the arrival of Hulk, who was introduced here today at Maracanã for the fans, there was the press conference that we also attended before the game. Then he was presented. Here there was a big celebration on the Maracanã field. The whole stadium turned green. He spoke to the fans, said he's eager to be on the field to help Fluminense. Anyway, it's worth highlighting Guga, it's worth highlighting JK, and also today, Canóbio's performance. Lucio Acosta as well, a very important player, always performing well. Fluminense's playmaker, very intelligent on the field. But today, Canóbio also deserves a lot of recognition because he was a player who needed a performance like this. He was a player who had been performing below average. As I said, he had been heavily questioned by the fans, and today he managed to put in an excellent performance. He fought hard, managed to get out of tough situations during the match, didn't lose the ball unnecessarily, and was rewarded with that goal. So it's worth highlighting these 3 players in particular, Guga, John Kennedy, and Canóbio. So Fluminense gets a very important win today, as I said, and to wrap things up here once again, I'm going to ask for your support. Like this analysis and share it with fellow Fluminense fans and other sports enthusiasts to keep them informed. It was an electrifying match here at Maracanã, we can say that, with Fluminense 2, São Paulo 1 for the 16th round of the Brazilian Championship.